Welcome to the Booker's Alliance podcast, where we hold the pencil and the pencil is power. Coming at you right now is your host, Marky Mark, along with the man, the myth, the legend, Frank Donaldson. Join us as we discuss the ever-changing landscape of professional wrestling. So hang on tight, you jabronis, and enjoy the ride. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you for joining today's episode of the Booker's Alliance podcast. We got a barn burner for you today. Come on in ringside, pull you up a chair, get your popcorn, get your whiskey that was so nice we had to have it twice.
You better get your drink ready because apparently we're Booker 2 bourbons over here because hell, we're too deep in already and we just hit record.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of them episodes. I can feel it.
Yeah, probably.
All right, so here's what we're gonna talk about today, everybody. Today's title: History 101. What's that mean? Are we going back to school? Did we enroll back in college?
Education time. Now we gotta educate some of them youngins out there. We know some of them youngins out there that ain't 40-year fans such as ourselves. We gotta show them a little something every now and then.
This episode is gonna be for the young fans out there, but it's also gonna be for your old heads out there, knowing what we know, listening to what we're gonna talk about, and absolutely drop some lines on our social media platforms about some other things once we get to that topic, because today's topic, we're going to educate some of our younger fans on some rivalries that, if they have not ever seen them, they need to go back and pay attention to them, watch them, and really kind of go for broke learning about some of this stuff, because there's some important stuff in there.
Yeah, I mean, hey, what do they say? If you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. So, I mean, we got to educate these people. We don't want no kids out here in 20 years talk about, that was for the old heads, and those matches are irrelevant. Oh, my God. And hearing that kind of stuff, you're just like, ugh. So we want to make sure everybody's caught up, everybody's educated, everybody's well-versed, as we say, on some of the best feuds of the 80s.
Yeah, and speaking of being caught up, let's talk about some things that are happening right now first, though. We got some.
Can we, though? I mean, Nothing's happening for me right now. Apparently you're having the time of your life right now, and I must be left behind. Yeah, play a little catch up.
Old Frank over sidetracked.
Yeah, I mean, there's that one segment that always draws my attention, and then, I be distracted for a little while.
That elevates your ratings?
Yeah, my mind be wandering a little bit. You wander off into a little imagination, and then next thing you know, it's 9:30. You're like, well, shit.
Again, today's episode is sponsored by Blue Chew.
Absolutely. Blue Chew, load us up. Now, speaking of the sponsor, though, I heard you had some applications put in this week. It seems like your wife put in a few applications for you around the city for some jobs. I heard she put you in an application for a plumber.
Oh,
bricklayer.
Yeah.
Pipe layer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just city driller.
Hey.
Jackhammer worker. I mean,
y'all just know Blue Chew works. That's what I'm saying.
Right. When your wife's putting in your applications, that means that it's doing something for you.
It's doing the job.
What do they say out there? $5 gets you your first shot. Hey, take your first shot and see if you can get hired for a new job.
Talking about knowing your history, y'all can't see my Dusty Rhodes smile going on right there. So let's talk about some current events that's going on right now, though. First off, Mommy's back.
Yep. Back and in full force.
And good God almighty, does she want Liv Morgan's head on a silver platter?
Oh, I'm glad you went with the silver platter part, because I was going to say, damn, I'm right there with her on that one. I want the head too, but I digress. But yeah, she's hot. She came in hot and heated, and she's real upset about what she's been seeing on the TV for the past few weeks.
Which is phenomenal, because I love the side of Rhea Ripley. I love the savage, the vengeful side of Rhea Ripley. We got to see that come out when she went into the darker Rhea Ripley, the Judgment Day. But the first time she fought Charlotte Flair, it was the bubblegum Rhea Ripley. And
she was just happy to be there. She was excited to face her mentor type person.
Yeah. And, that version was just,
Yeah. I mean, she went over. So, it was the launching pad, but it wasn't the character that she would grow into.
Yeah, but now when you got the mommy version of Rhea Ripley going after this version of Liv, because this is a different version of Liv too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that they were a fledgling tag team, stuck in the mid card out there, just kind of hanging around with no real direction. And I mean, good Lord, both of them have graduated right on up to the first class, and they're ready to go. They are both firing on all cylinders.
So that story right now is very, very entertaining to me to watch how that's developing. I don't think it's over. I don't think we're gonna get a Rhea Ripley title win at SummerSlam.
Got to be some funky play in there.
Yeah, Dominic Mysterio.
Yeah, he's got it. I mean, how many mess ups did when he was trying to keep Becky from winning the title and trying to keep Liv from winning? How many mistakes did he make? There's one more mistake in that bag of tricks out there where he'll cost Mommy that title shot, and that's going to set up a whole hell of a firestorm from there.
Yep. Something else that's going on right now that's really entertaining. Everything going on with the Wyatt Six. This has caused a lot of conversation since Monday Night Raw. There's some people that liked it, some people that didn't like it. All I'm asking is continue to take this thing slowly, continue to pay attention. Don't judge it yet until we get it fully developed, because it's not yet. It's still unfurling.
It shouldn't be. I mean, as of right now, we've really only been introduced to two characters. I mean, right. We don't even know the backstory of the other characters yet. We don't even know their involvement, and we don't need to. I mean, they all came out. They came out in character at the end of Monday night, and and they had a moment, and it wasn't a hit for everybody. But I feel like the people in the arena, I'm betting it was a hit for them.
Yeah,
maybe for the TV audience, it comes across a little bit different. It might even come across as hokey. I mean, but they didn't do anything. They came in and intimidated a newly formed faction of the Creed brothers and Chad Gable, which I love that faction.
Absolutely.
I mean, damn, if you want to make a new varsity club, go ahead with it, because you got the right three guys to start it. That's for damn sure. But, they intimidated a newly formed faction, and the faction ran away, and they kind of just held court until they faded to black.
Yep.
That works. They didn't come in and dominate anybody. Bo Dallas kind of took a beat down, but so you got to start looking at, is Bo Dallas and Uncle Howdy, they're not the same person.
No.
You got to start understanding they're not the same person and realizing whatever, mystical power and all that other that Uncle Howdy will eventually get to, this is just Bo Dallas. I mean, he was in the general manager's office last week. He was just hanging around backstage this week. He's just a normal guy. You can't intermix the two and start making them what you think they should be. You just got to let them be what they are.
You got to let it evolve. You got to let it evolve. And there was a couple things that happened in the kind of the beat down of Bo Dallas, which I wish they would just drop the name. I don't like the name Bo Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, go into something Wyatt or something else. I mean,
Taylor.
He could be Bo Wyatt for all I care. But Bo Dallas, that ain't him no more. And we've pulled the curtain back enough that we can't stay with that.
But in that beatdown that they did on him, though, Monday night, you saw two things happen. First thing you saw happen is him laughing. Mm-hmm. That's a direct correlation to Bray.
Yeah, absolutely.
When Bray used to laugh when he was getting beat down, because there was, the whole fact of, y'all don't really know what's wrong with me, and no matter how much you beat on me, I can't feel it.
Yeah.
Not the fact that he's getting beat down and it don't hurt.
Yeah.
His pain inside hurts more.
It outweighs
any beating you put on him.
Nothing's going to hurt him more than he's already hurting inside.
And then the tribute to Brody, yeah. I mean, him doing that.
Yeah.
Brody used to do that in the ring.
Yeah.
So those were two tributes that happened there Monday night. But then there was another small little nugget that if you wasn't paying attention, you would have missed. But there was a moment where Bo looked at Chad when Chad was beating him up, and he said, "There you are."
Yep.
And he smiled. Yep. Mm-hmm. And I think this is where I'm hoping they go with this. We talked about this before, how, their masks are their pain. That's kind of how they wear it. They show it, things like that, right?
Yep.
He's pulling the pain out of Chad.
Yeah.
And he saw it by the brutality.
Yep.
And he said, there you are.
I also think what he's pulling out of him is that dog in him.
That dog.
I mean, if you know Chad Gable's background, he was an Olympic freestyle wrestler, which means he's a badass, right? Yep. So, because ain't no Olympic freestyle wrestlers, that qualify to that level, just a, fly-by-night guy. These are the tippy top guys. Yep. So he knows deep inside, he's got that, that machine Kurt Angle.
Killer,
he's got
and
that exactly. And he's got that angle in there that can pull him out.
That's
that's where Bo's going. He's taking him to that place. Like, you're not Shorty G no more. You're not the American Alpha. You're not even the Alpha Academy, dude. You're a killer.
That's the blueprint.
I want to see the killer.
He's going to bring that out.
Absolutely.
And it's gonna kind of move over to the Creed brothers as well. Mm-hmm. I believe you're going to see Chad come out of this goofy heel that Kurt Angle ran for a while, and whereas Kurt didn't really change his colors, he shaved his head.
Yeah. And
he became this savage, machine in the ring, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's where you're going to see Chad develop into.
Absolutely.
Put him in all black. You don't have to shave his head. You don't have to make it, 1-to-1 from what Kurt Angle did.
No, because his head's real funny looking, so he'll need to shave that thing. Oh, God, no, yeah. Plus, Kurt had to shave because Kurt was going bald. That was before Hims for men, so Kurt ain't really have a choice. Kurt had to do that, or otherwise he was going to have a real fucked up character.
But as far as what they're doing and how they came out though and made their in-ring appearance, that was the anniversary of when the Wyatt family made their in-ring appearance. So there was a nod to that.
Good point. I don't think a lot of people caught on to that.
Yeah, so I really think that they're still doing a great job. The VHS tape of Rowan, that's probably one of the heaviest segments that I have watched in a long time.
I mean, damn, if I didn't know better, I'd swear that was like a session with him and a counselor. Not a VHS promo type thing. That seemed way too real for a wrestling promo.
Which is where I think they're going with all of this. Uncle Howdy is their counselor.
Yeah, somewhere or another, though. I mean, what I'm real anxious to see now is how did Nikki Cross and Dexter Loomis and who was Joe Gacy?
Yep.
How do they play into it? Like, what was their connection to the Wyatt family or to Bray or to whatever they're tied into? What's their connection to have them so tightly knit with the group? I mean, that's 2-3 more months of storytelling. Absolutely. Just right there explaining their story.
WWE, don't rush it.
Absolutely. There's no payoff in the match because
it's the story.
And Busted Open brought this up, and so while I disagreed with a lot of what they said, because again they give that whole get off my lawn, they like their wrestling their way and they don't really want to see another way, but I did see part of what they were saying where when these guys get in the ring, I mean, they look like a mid-card act.
Yeah.
They look like Bloodline 2.0 did a month ago, right?
Yep.
They come across as a mid-card, which that's how you develop acts, right? I mean, no act should be, unless you're the NWO, you're not going to be the heaviest hitter the day you're formed, right?
Yep.
But we also don't want that lingering memory of these guys being a bunch of mid-carders hanging around in the ring when we're trying to look at them as an upper echelon faction. So you got to limit that in-ring stuff until there's such a force that you do respect them as a frontline group. Same with Bloodline. They put them out there a little too much, when they were doing the whole solo gimmick. Before the Paul Heyman thing, they were kind of getting their butts whooped. They were taking too many losses, and they started looking mid. Then, they beat down Paul Heyman. Then Jacob Fatu came out. Now, all of a sudden, they've elevated to a top-tier group where you look at them like, oh, yeah, I could see them banging with a Roman-led bloodline. I could picture this now.
So, hold on. You mentioned the name. Like Joe Hendry, you mentioned his name, he appears, right?
I believe in him.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, we got to talk about Jacob Fatu for a minute, though. I know we're moving on from the Wyatt Six storyline. Let's talk about Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu, if they play their cards right with him, that boy will be WWE champion within 2 to 3 years.
Dude, he's a banger.
That's the real deal.
that dude's the truth. Not our truth, but he's the truth. Yeah, I mean, the beating he came out and put down on this most recent SmackDown, the moves he was pulling out.
Yep.
None of the other Usos move around like that. Jay and Jimmy don't move.
They don't move like that no more.
Tama and Haku didn't move like that back in the stuff he was pulling out. I mean, he no spring chicken.
Yep.
He didn't just wake up, but apparently he's gotten himself into amazing shape from what he was before. And I mean, he's bringing a whole new move set to this group to whereas he looks more dominant than even Solo at this point.
Even for y'all that don't know, this man was doing these moves 40 pounds ago.
Yeah.
That brother used to be 40 pounds heavier and doing this stuff. So
God bless him.
so that's my takeaway though from a whole bloodline story right now.
Same thing, slow burn.
Yeah, slow burn.
I think they're about to hot shot it though. I think we're gonna start getting the seeds.
Yeah,
here upcoming soon in SummerSlam. I mean, I feel like we're getting Roman soon, which the fans are calling for Roman. He's got to come back. Maybe not in a wrestling role, but he's got to get back on camera because the fans really want him back.
If Solo doesn't win SummerSlam, I fully expect SummerSlam to go off the air.
There's a thought where you think Solo could win SummerSlam and win the title from Cody Rhodes?
It's potential.
Holy hell.
Potential.
If Solo wins where Roman lost, I'll never watch again. I'm putting that one out there in the ether right now. I'll stop watching WWE right now.
But SummerSlam to me has to go off the air with Roman showing up.
Absolutely.
Showing up.
At some stage.
He don't even have to walk to the ring. He just needs to come out.
You just got to hear the music.
And he comes out on the stage.
You see him, right. You just see him.
Him and Solo have locked eyes.
Exactly. That's all you need. That's enough, and that could hold us to War Games at that point.
I don't even need to see Paul.
No, we're not ready to see Paul.
I don't need to see Paul.
Roman's got to avenge Paul before we get Paul. You know, Roman's got to be back in full force and ready to get physical so Paul doesn't even fear getting beat down again. And I think standing next to Roman's the only way he wouldn't fear that. So you got to see that. But that needs to take all the time it can.
Let's talk about one more thing before we get into our topic. Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, Seth Rollins.
They're all over the place with that right now.
This whole triangle, it is messy. And I will say, even though it's messy, I like it.
Because, and so it's good messy, right?
But it's good messy because you don't know where it's going.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's going to be Punk, Rollins, Drew, Drew, Punk. You don't know.
Yeah, three-way.
You don't know how it's going to be. You don't know how it's going to come out. But I will say, for me, how I like my wrestling, I'm hoping I get a Punk that's pissed at the world, a Drew McIntyre that will stop at nothing to take out Punk, and Seth that will stop at nothing to get that world title back.
And all that sounds great. You know what I'm hoping for?
What's that?
I'm hoping we don't get a one-winged Seth. Or a one-winged CM Punk. We don't get a one-legged Seth, and we don't get a one-whatever Drew. These guys are crumbling like brick houses at this point now. I mean, they're falling like if the big bad wolf came and blew them down. One's the house of twigs, one's the house of sand, and the other one hopefully is a house of rocks. Drew right now is holding up pretty solid. Hopefully, and I think that's why he has to be intertwined in it.
Yeah.
Because, hell, he's the only one that they're pretty guaranteed will stay healthy. The other two fuckers, I mean, they're holding on for dear life. I mean, one's being patched up one way, the other one's patched up the other way. Yep. Neither one of them are wrestling.
And you gave me some intrigue for Gunther versus Damian Priest. You gave me some intrigue because I see the angle Gunther is coming from, as in you're not even on my level.
Yep.
I see where Priest is coming from. You're not giving me my dues.
Yep.
So as far as how this match is going to go, it ain't going to be pretty.
No, but
it ain't going to be scientific.
I like the way they're doing it simply because obviously the main show right now, or the main program on the show is the Drew Punk Seth thing, right?
Right.
The fact that you can get the heavyweight title at least on par with that, I'll go with that. The heavyweight title should always be the lead program, but the characters surrounding it just aren't the leadest guy. They're the guys they're developing to be those number one guys. But you can't just kick the number one guys out because, I mean, there's a lot of money to be made with anything CM Punk right now, especially with Rollins and McIntyre. That's, you can start printing the money in the back if you program it correctly. So the fact that they can run those two angles parallel, still keep my interest, and still throw in the women's title with Rhea and Dom and Liv. God, I mean, they're doing everything about as good as possible
right now.
The only thing for me though is, damn, it's a slow burn.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, I know we got to hold out to SummerSlam, and SummerSlam's still a good ways away, but good Lord, I mean, we got to wrap up something.
All I know is SummerSlam's going to be a hell of a card.
Yeah.
It's going to be
be full.
Yeah, it's going to be.
You're going to miss it.
Nope, I'll be here.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. The time. That's right. Close, but no cigar.
Let's also give an honorable mention to something else real quick. AEW. Somehow, some way, you found a motor and you got the motor cranked, your story motor, it started up. Can you keep it running?
It did something.
You got a few stories.
I don't know exactly how much we agree on this one, so we might have to go a little bit. The topic might have to get a little cut short here because we might have to go into that a little bit.
So Mariah May, Toni Storm,
they look great. God damn! I mean, hell, let's call a spade a spade.
Let's get
Mariah
past the
May was
looks.
putting a beat down out there, and all I was thinking is, man, that girl looks good.
So I will say this: I like my wrestling a little bloody. Okay. I don't mind it being a little bloody because to me it's a full contact sport.
Okay.
Now they have also shied away in the past sometimes of the women's story angles being a little bloody.
Thank God.
But they did do it for Britt and Thunder Rosa.
Yeah.
Which in my mind was justified and it was beautifully done.
Made sense.
This, the way they're doing Mariah May and Toni Storm, beautifully done, and here's why. As long as they only keep
it to what they've done.
Right. They don't need to do it no more.
If she turns into Dean Ambrose, then I'm really tapping out. But
now if they
doing it the way they did it this time, it worked because it was so unexpected.
Well, getting to their match, if they do it in the match, I'm fine with that as well. But let me draw a parallel to an old movie. And when I say old, I'm talking about it's probably early 2000s. Do you remember a movie?
Holy hell, you're calling that old now? God, I can't wait till we get to the topic. Let's hurry up. Let's get to the topic.
Do you remember
you're
a movie?
Saying 2000s are old. Damn, I'm old.
Do you remember a movie called Sin City?
Yeah, of course, with Jessica Alba. I mean, who the hell would forget that? Come on now.
So the whole
I don't
movie,
remember nothing that happened in the movie. I know Jessica Alba was in it, and she was whipping a lasso around on a horse. Woo.
So the whole movie was black and white, except for two things: lipstick and blood.
Yeah,
Those were red.
Yep.
So with Toni Storm living in a world of black and white, even though they didn't shoot it in black and white, which I thought
that was a mistake.
I thought was a mistake.
Wasn't that such a mistake? Absolutely.
That should have been in black and white, and they should have found a filter to
it was
pop the
completely
blood.
Possible, but they blew it. They blew that. I thought as it was happening, I'm like, ooh, they blew it.
It should have been in black and white, but their story is a regurgitated story from the 1940s or 50s, I believe, where there was two dominating women in Hollywood that were kind of going at each other, that were making snarky comments, and I believe it was Audrey Hepburn and somebody else. I can't remember.
Garbo.
Was that who it was?
I don't know, but I know that's a name from that time frame, so we're going to use
it. We'll go for it.
Hell yeah, we're the Bookers Alliance. We write this story,
we booked
damn it. Yeah.
So there was an old Hollywood kind of rivalry there between the two of who could outwork who in Hollywood, who was the better actress, so to speak. This is Toni Storm and Mariah May.
Wait, Mariah May is trying to prove she can outwork somebody?
I think she's trying to prove. That's not a good
idea.
She's trying to prove that I'm no longer the understudy.
Okay, that I'll go along with that. So, but yeah, she ain't outworking nobody. Now, hell, that ain't gonna happen.
So,
but damn, she looked good.
I love how they're twisting this. They missed that one spot, but I'm loving how they're twisting it. I'm also, and I know you're not a fan, I'm also digging the whole Hangman Swerve Bryan Danielson.
Ugh. You want to talk about strange bedfellows? The hell are them? So short of them three, I mean, Hangman and Swerve are from. Daniel Bryan and Swerve are from Seattle. The hell, that's not
what
a story.
What do they have in common?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a crap ass story. And then Hangman and Swerve. Oh, God, I don't want to see no more of that. You know what I do want to see though?
Who?
I want to see more of Mercedes Moné and the Doctor Britt Baker. What I don't want to see is Britt beating up 700 dude security guards to get to Mercedes, who runs the hell away. That was ridiculous. That was. I mean, I get stretching reality a little bit, but damn, that was cartoons at that point. That was insane. But I don't mind watching them two stand next to each other and conversate. That ain't a bad look at all.
So as far
as get Mariah May and Anna Jay in there, oh my God, you just send me away.
As far as stories, they're trying to crank it out a little bit, but I'll tell you where they're flopping and what is a huge miss on me right now. Anything to do with MJF.
Yeah.
It's a huge miss on me.
And you know what the reason is? It's because they're trying to make a story away from the title for him. With the same thing we just talked about with Seth, Drew, and Punk on WWE. They're trying to do the same thing with MJ, and they're failing.
Yeah.
Because MJF only focuses on the title. So anytime they let him speak, at some point or another, he's throwing a dig at, I'm the best, I should be the champion. And it's like, well, you just buried everybody else in the company. And I get it, that's your gimmick.
You're not even in the championship program right now.
Exactly. But you're still trying to find a way to bury the champion and all the people involved with that. And then the people they're matching him up with, I'm not interested in that.
Yeah, I mean, I get Daniel Garcia. He's got a little cult following, but him and Daddy Magic, like, who? Like, I don't even
Right.
care.
I mean, exactly. So, in the believability of, one of them is going to beat MJF, it ain't there for me. So,
there's some good stuff happening. Can they make it work and continue? I don't know, but all I'm going to say, AEW, keep trying.
Well, they can keep trying on that, but what they need to stop trying on is Daniel Garcia doing that little dance in people's face. That man did that dance
in the corner.
Yeah, if he did that to me and like right in my face like that, and he accidentally caught a receipt, I wouldn't know what to tell him on that. But
sorry for that potato, sir.
Exactly. But when he finds himself walking away with a little lip on the side or something like that, I'll be like, I forgot. I didn't mean to headbutt you as you were doing your dance. I thought I was supposed to put my head in instead of back. I missed. Yeah, we ain't doing that.
No.
Here at the Booker's Alliance, we don't play that. So you go ahead and keep your gimmick to yourself.
As a once wise man said, homie, don't play that.
Keep your gimmick to yourself, son.
All right, let's get into our topic. And our topic today is History 101. This idea was kind of spurred from a conversation that we heard on a podcast from Busted Open, where a caller called in and he kind of said that the Flair Sting rivalry from days gone by is really not important to younger fans. And to me, that kind of perked my interest for a minute because, okay, you may not see how it fits into today's landscape, but have you really gone back and watched it?
So let's actually summarize that to what it really is. It's not important to his childhood fandom.
Right.
That doesn't mean it's not important to the landscape of wrestling.
Right.
Because, I mean, story at the end of the day, and we've talked about it to death on this podcast, story is where your money's at.
Yep.
I don't care what two guys you put together. You could put Jesus and Satan together if there ain't no story behind it.
That's the oldest battle of good
exactly. But if you don't know the story, if you're an atheist and you have no idea who these two characters are,
touché.
You have zero interest in it. Those believers out there. We're like, yep, we want to see it. Can't wait for the day. People that have no clue who they are couldn't care less. That's how wrestling is, right? Yep. If you have and maybe that caller is in that situation. Maybe he's only heard the legend of Ric Flair and he only caught the AEW version of Sting. If that's all the experience I have with those two guys, then yeah, that probably does sound like a crap ass feud, right? Because old Sting and Ric Flair, the ghost of Ric Flair, but I see Ric Flair on social media today. That crazy fucker, I don't want to see him wrestle nobody, right?
Yeah.
So I could see the disconnect in today, but the fact of the matter is the reason the network, the WWE network on Peacock or wherever you get it is, the reason it's successful is because people have gone back and got invested into those stories to understand, man, these guys really have a complete dislike for one another and they had to settle it physically. That's the nature of humanity as a whole. So all the way back until, Abel and Cain and hell, Adam and Eve to a certain extent. They had some kind of dispute and it had to be settled physically.
Right.
Now, if you want to know how Adam and Eve settled their disputes physically, I need you to go back to Sexuality 101. But
oh, God.
Cain and Abel, they went a completely different way. Oh, yeah, he's popped. I'll carry this segment for a few minutes. But Cain and Abel, I mean, they went a completely different way. They had a rivalry and once somebody had to go, right? That's how most rivalries end up, is somebody has to go at the end of it. I mean, so that takes you, as you know, again, back to believers type. That takes you all the way back to the onset, to creation. That story will never die. And if it's told correctly, it's epic.
Yep. Let's talk about some of these stories, though. Let's start with Flair. There was 3 stories that we kind of pinned down that are pivotal to what, to some of the rivalries that we see today. Let's talk about Flair Sting for just a second. And younger listeners out there, go back, use the WWE network, use, on Peacock.
Get your Peacock out.
Go back.
I know you younger users already got it, so just go ahead and use it correctly this time.
Let's talk about Flair Sting real quick. Flair was the established man.
Yeah.
The man. To be the man, you got to beat the man.
Yep. And he was the ultimate bad guy, too.
He was the ultimate bad guy. And then you had this young, up-and-comer, charismatic, almost
colorful
enigma, if you will.
Yeah.
Icon. And coming into the ring, Sting was your ultimate white meat babyface.
Absolutely. I mean,
Flair was your ultimate heel.
Yeah.
And you want to see the story of, now, when I say this, it's a loose comparison. The story of Cody Roman.
Wow, that's the loosest comparison.
I'm talking about the ultimate heel versus white meat babyface.
I get it. I do see the correlation there, but my God.
But Flair,
that's the loosest correlation.
But Flair Sting, go back to where that all started, and you will see what it meant for the babyface to overcome all the odds.
Yeah.
That's what that story was about. And then the heel trying to figure out, what is that? What does this mean for me? And where do I go from here? And how do I rectify this?
Yeah,
because this young pup just came in this ring.
Exactly. They basically had to regather the troops and say, we got to take a united front back here. We got to overcome this because we're being killed out here right now. So
let's move on from that. Let's talk about another program Flair was in, and that was with Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah.
I think
that was the start.
Right. We've covered this multiple times on the podcast. But again, Flair, your upper class, your rich man. Dusty, your blue collar Texan. So
they automatically had the obvious, the blood feud right there.
Right.
And then that's where the creation of the Four Horsemen came. I mean, had it not been for Flair's feud with Dusty, we wouldn't need a Four Horsemen. Yep. But let's be honest. I mean, what do all your upper class guys have? They have armed security. They have bodyguards. They have people around. They're always surrounded by somebody that can help in a bad situation. To whereas your blue collar guy, he's always out there on his own. He's only got these two hands, and that's all he's got to get through that fight.
He's got the ass kickers that he was born with. So that's a beautiful tale of a rivalry. Another one that we talked about with Flair, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
So those two guys were just, ring technicians.
That's it.
They didn't have to tie in the outside storyline or anything.
It was what was done between those ropes.
Exactly. And I mean, they told their whole story right there in the ring. It didn't matter what the situation was. Put a title in there, don't put a title in there. I mean, for their situation, they had the title, but they could have had those matches without. Same difference. Yep. I mean, their story was told in the ring just because they made magic in there.
Comparison of Flair Steamboat, Omega Ospreay.
Yep.
It's the technicians battle.
Yeah.
Let's move on to another big name that had some real interesting rivalries that you should go back and look at. Maybe the biggest one of them all, Hogan Andre.
Yeah. I mean, Hogan Andre put wrestling on the map as a whole. Let's call a spade a spade. If you were a wrestling fan, like by that point, I was 3 years into my fandom, so I was hooked.
Right.
But there were a lot of people in the world that had no clue what wrestling was, didn't know when wrestling came on, but they saw that magazine. And I mean, when you see Andre the Giant stand next to anybody, it's a sight, right? Yeah. So it's like, when they go on some interview, when they went on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, or they did, spot shows, or ESPN showed them, or whatever the case may be, it's a sight to see a 7 foot, 500-pound man stand there. And then to see Hulk Hogan, who's known as larger than life, to see a man larger than him standing next to him, that's a sight to see, and it's going to garner some interest.
If you don't know about Andre, I encourage you and implore you, please go watch the Andre documentary. I believe it was done by HBO.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful and unfortunately heartbreaking tale of Andre and his life and what he went through. But Andre was the type of person, you stand Brock Lesnar next to him, it made Brock Lesnar look like a kid.
Look tiny. And I mean, we've seen Brock stand next to Big Show. We've seen him stand next to Undertaker, Kane. We've seen him stand, and he still stands up to those guys.
Yeah.
But I mean, Andre was mass. Andre was height.
Yep.
Andre was a large, strong man. And even Brock Lesnar would have had to take a seat to a young, healthy Andre.
And you know how they talk about how Randy Orton, everything he does in the ring is with purpose?
Yep.
That was Andre.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything he needed in the ring was purposefully done. Now, granted, man that big ain't got to do much.
Well, right.
All you got to do is swat that big old frying pan at you.
And a man that big can't do that much. So he had to make sure everything was done with purpose because, hell, Andre couldn't make a mistake because if he made a mistake, that could be the end of his whole career out there. He only had a certain few select moves he could do, so he had to make sure they counted.
Yep. Moving on to another Hogan rivalry that was really important and everybody should go back and pay attention to, Hogan Piper.
Yeah. I think that introduced everybody into how a babyface works versus how a heel works.
It also introduced people to the idea of why a promo is important.
Yeah.
Piper.
Yeah, because I don't know if we've ever saw those two wrestle one-on-one.
No.
As far as mainstream, nobody's ever seen those two go one-on-one in WCW in the late 90s, but that shit don't count.
Yep.
We're talking about in the heyday of those two guys' career, early to mid 80s. We never saw those two guys. You'd see it on house shows. You'd see it around the loop, but you never saw, there was no WrestleMania with those two guys one-on-one. There was no Royal Rumble, Survivor Series. None of that happened where Piper Hogan went one-on-one, mainly because neither one of those guys were going to do the job. So,
right. I mean, but as far as what they gave to us on the mic, the mic work for that rivalry, you want to know how that correlates to today's time? Easy. Punk MJF.
There you go.
I mean, that's your good guy, bad guy kind of standing up to each other, laying it all on the line, mano a mano, and not even getting physical.
No, but had there not been a Hogan Piper, we never would have got a Punk MJF.
Yeah, we would have never got it. You would have never got it.
That's where your promo work, that's where your mic work learned to step up.
Yeah.
They had, at that point is when they realized these two guys are basically carrying a whole feud without touching each other. I mean,
Cena and The Rock.
Yeah.
They went a whole year without touching each other.
Yeah,
and it was just verbal. So, I mean, that's why those, and this is what we're trying to get a point, our point across to everybody. A lot of the stuff that you see today, it is rooted in these rivalries from the past.
Yeah, because the guys in the past they went through the trial and error. They made all the mess ups that our generation and the younger generations under us don't have to go through because these guys already paved that way.
Yep.
They talk about paving the road and all that. What that literally means is, hey, we made all the mistakes humanly possible on our run, learn from them. Don't go out there and make the exact same mistake again. Take what I did. My father used to tell me that all the time. He's like, look, I messed up so much when I was coming along. My job is to just tell you that so you don't make those mistakes. You're going to make your mistakes. You're going to F up. You're going to do things wrong because that's human nature. But damn, you don't have to do the same ones I did because I'm here to tell you these are the mistakes I made and this is why I did it. And this is how I know to do it better. You at least got that starting point.
Yep.
So where my dad may have started at ground zero and said, damn, I got to figure it all out. Hell, I at least had that leg up. I had all of his experience under my belt to say, well, I'm going to build from here. So there's a lot of mistakes that he made in his life that I'll never make in my life because I remember that history of this is what was done. This is what I should have done. This is where I'm starting then. Me personally, I'm starting from where he should have done.
Right.
And then I'll go from there. Now, what mistakes I make from there, those are unforeseen mistakes.
On you,
because nobody knows they're coming. But damn, all the shit he did back in the day where he messed, I ain't doing that no more. Come on now. And that's what the smart wrestlers of today are learning.
Yep.
That's why your Roman Reigns doesn't make these kind of mistakes anymore because his father, Sika, was in wrestling and he made those mistakes. Now, early, Roman didn't have that voice to say, nah, this is what I'm going to do or this is who I am. He had to kind of listen to guidance. And when you're listening to guidance, you're not trusting your instincts, you're going to make those mistakes because the guys that are guiding you don't know you correctly to say, this is who you are, this is who you're going to be. But as we see with Roman, when he came back after his COVID layoff and he was allowed to take control of his own character, he looked back. I mean, he hasn't looked back and nothing's missed and nothing he's done has been a miss because he learned from all those historical bloodline members that you see on that big chart that Rock put up there. I mean, God, if you got that much history under your belt, you're bound to succeed.
Let's talk about one other feud or rivalry real quick that Hogan had. And this one was probably the most intriguing just because the amount of realism behind the scenes that was actually happening with this rivalry, and that's Hogan Savage.
Oh, God. Which era are we talking about here? So early 80s when it was just Hogan Savage one-on-one? Are we talking Mega Powers Hogan? Are we talking NWO? Yeah. Are we talking Randy Savage rap album feud? I mean, good Lord.
Oh, God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, those two guys feuded straight up until Randy Savage's death. I mean, they were at odds for the better part of 30 years. They never saw eye to eye.
So their rivalry stemmed over the fact that both of them wanted the top spot, and neither one of them was going to give the other one the opportunity. That was kind of, you had Alpha A, Alpha B.
Yeah.
And then, and Randy, why I said there was some truth into that is because, Miss Elizabeth got into the mix.
Man, you want to talk about, let's talk about pretty women. My goodness.
Now, I will say, I will go on the record as saying, even though I didn't have, hard crush on Miss Elizabeth,
you were like 4, so you shouldn't have, but I was like 8.
But as pretty goes, Miss Elizabeth was one of the prettiest.
She was, especially as far as wrestling personalities go, man, that was probably my first crush. So let's see, they debuted in 85? I was like 7. Oh yeah, that was probably your boy's first crush in there.
Let's talk about a few more real quick before we got to wrap up. Savage Steamboat. Oof. Look no further than WrestleMania 3.
Man, the build up to it, most people only remember the match, right? Yeah. They only remember that match. But there was 6 to 8 months of story before that where on a Saturday night's main event, Macho Man had jumped off the top rope and put the bell into Ricky Steamboat, crushed larynx. That was the first time I'd ever heard the word larynx in my life. I was 6. And I'm like, what the hell is a larynx? So, I learned what a larynx was and never lost that. But I know Ricky Steamboat was crushed that day. Yep. And somehow or another, he came back and recovered. And him and George the Animal Steel were going to beat the hell out of Randy Savage. And damn, when they got in the ring, they made magic. Yep. So
that was a beautiful match, beautiful rivalry. Another one that was really, really intriguing. And if it was based in reality, these two folks did a beautiful job selling it. Talking about Ravishing Rick Rude and Jake the Snake Roberts.
Oh, man. So you want to get into storytelling. This is late 80s. Rick Rude put a picture of that man's wife
on his tights,
on the front and the back,
on his tights,
and he would go out there and gyrate his hips and point to that face. And if you're Jake the Snake Roberts, so you're married, right?
Yep.
If one of the guys in the block walks up and down the street, he's out there got a jacket with your wife's image on it. How the hell you gonna react to that?
We're gonna have words.
Oh man,
there's some fists go get there.
Yeah, that's never ending, right? That's a blood feud till the end of time. Yep. What the heck?
Even if you settle it, it ain't settled.
No, there ain't no settling that. Hell, that's the ultimate side of disrespect right there. That means on site. Every time I see you, your ass is getting beat again. Mollywop.
Mollywop.
Absolutely.
We got 2 more that we want to talk about. We'll briefly mention them. They're important to us. Go out there and check them out. Road Warriors versus Midnight Express.
Yep.
That was 2 huge tag teams for their era. 2 really Road Warriors from Chicago. Dude, they don't care. They're going to beat your ass. They don't care. Midnight Express, cheat, steal to win, doesn't matter. They're going to figure it out. And then Jim Cornette caught up in the middle of it.
Oh, yeah.
That's a beautiful rivalry.
Money there.
Another one is the British Bulldogs versus Hart Foundation. You want to talk about technical wrestling?
Man.
Every bit of that was technical.
Oh, yeah. You had your 2 speedsters with Dynamite Kid and Bret Hart in there. You had your 2 strength guys with Davey Boy and Jim the Anvil. Both evenly matched. Then you found out later they were all related. It's like, holy hell.
Yep.
What bigger feud can you build out of that?
So those are some of the rivalries. If you're a youngin' in this game, in the professional wrestling, matter of fact, if you're starting out as a wrestler, go back.
Oh, absolutely.
Go back and look at some of these feuds. Granted, we're old heads. We've been around the block for a while.
We saw this stuff live.
We know all about these rivalries and things. And I know what you're thinking. Man, y'all some old men. Y'all don't know nothing. I promise you, everything that we've talked about today, it correlates to what you're seeing on your TV right now.
And, big money for the 80s. So saying you would draw $1 million houses in the 80s is like saying you're drawing $1 billion houses today. So, put some respect on their name.
Yep. All right. So go out there, take a look at this stuff. Drop a line on our social media platforms. Let us know what you thought about these rivalries and these stories from the past. If you come across another one, let us know what you saw. Let us know what you got out of it. But with that, we appreciate everybody listening to our podcast today, and we bid you adieu.
Learn your history.
Today's podcast was produced by SBP. You can find our podcast on all major podcast platforms. Also, connect with us on our social media accounts. Search for The Bookers Alliance on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and X.